Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I am your host, Rob, and today we're doing the Age of Sigmar Stats Centre, where we do all of the event results from the weekend. There are 160 players playing this week over the 3 countries and 4 different events. If you want to go and look at the actual stats, you can go to honestwargamer.com and look at all the stats compiled by Ziggy and Rob from the T-Sports Stats Centre, 2 wonderful people who put together great stats. I'm joined by the Twitch chat. We are going to be covering 4 events. We will not be covering, though, 2 different events that happened around the world, specifically Blood Tithe, which is an event that happened in the UK, which was a teams event. And the reason we don't really tend to cover teams event because the pairings process to make it so those teams play against each other is quite complicated and awkward. But a fantastic event organised by Mark Wilson. And Blood Tithe is an event that will run every year. So if you ever get the opportunity to go to Blood Tithe or would like to travel internationally to go to Blood Tithe, I encourage you to do so. Also, over in France, there was also a massive team event as well, again for Age of Sigmar. So 2 huge team events. So while it looks like maybe there isn't loads of really big events, that's not true. There's just been also some big team events as well this weekend, as well as doubles and some singles event, which has been really good. So I've loved that. We're going to get on with the events now. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining me. If you do like the show, obviously, please do like and subscribe. Comments below if you're watching on YouTube. And we have a Patreon if you want to help support the show. Let's go. The first event we're going to look at today is the Hampshire Grand Tournament. Hampshire Grand Tournament organised by Paul M. and Wayne Kemp. Warhammer Fantasy fans will remember that name. Had 84 players, and therefore it's the biggest event this week, obviously outside of Blood Tithe, which is a team tournament, an international team tournament that happened here in the UK as well. We will mention that later. So there are 3 5-0s at this event, at such a large event as you would expect with 84 players. We've got Ricky Me running Fire Slayers, Russ Veal with Ogre Tribes, and Darren Watson with Fire Slayers. Now, Ricky, running his Fire Slayers, as you can see here, was running the Fire Slayer list that we've been talking about a lot over the past few weeks. So this is what we would definitely now call an archetype. Little important note is that this event had a couple of comp elements to it. It was post the FAQ, so both the Rally nerf and the Arcane Tome change were all in effect. The event also didn't let you pick the grand strategy from your book. You had to pick one from the Battle Tome. This is something I massively agree with, by the way. I think that's really excellent, so it's good to see that gone. Especially because that was so easy for armies like Fire Slayer, so it's interesting that they still did well, even with that restriction removed. That bonus taken away. And you could choose to only do 1 battle tactic from your army book each game. It could be any of the battle tactics from your army book, but only one of them. So there's been lots of conversations about the battle tactics in the games being too easy, especially the ones from your army book. I personally agree with that, but the game's the game. I mean, we are where we are. It's a Games Workshop game at the end of the day. So just those things to point out. So if we see some odd lists or some odd list iterations, or what's maybe more important is that we're seeing actually lists that aren't very iterative, which is quite interesting, and therefore maybe those things don't even have that big an impact, which is a great conversation as well, right? We're on the website called Stats and Ladders, which I'm going to message them and hope that output gets better, because I don't want to have to scroll 9 pages for a list output that looks like this. I'm going to message them. But other than that, it's got a really nice UI. So Ricky Me, I think was in Team England, might not be in Team England anymore. I can't remember. Nice tall fella. He's running Fire Slayers and Vostdragon. This is the archetype that we've been talking about a lot. Double Flamekeeper, and then those 30 Volkites and the 15 Hearthguard making up the majority of the points. So obviously using dead Fire Slayers to rack up the points on the Flamekeeper's ability. Each Fire Slayer can put a point on each Flamekeeper. When it gets to 6, it can use those to utilize like double damage, not double damage, but +1 damage, charging the opponent's charge phase, all sorts of stuff like that. So this is very much now an archetype in many ways for Fire Slayers, and even with the Rally nerf, that's gone. The Battlesmith, don't forget, making it so that you can rally on a 4+ versus on a 6, so that's obviously super useful. Fueled by Gurish Rage, so the Battlesmith won't die, which is really good. And then Tunnel Master on that Auric Runefather for that easy battle tactic turn 1 if he needs it. So ultimately it's just a very solid combat army with a trick where if stuff dies, it actually gets even stronger. It's just that simple, really. It just does stuff. incredibly well with the double Flamekeeper. Probably it would be really fun to see the Flamekeeper not stack. So one death doesn't tick out both Flamekeepers would be a really positive change to this list. Maybe just to reduce its efficacy, because we've seen it do incredibly well over the past few weeks, or past few months actually. Rustville was running Ogre, More Tribes from Underguts, also a former Team England player. Was running a Firebelly. A Firebelly we're seeing a lot. Sorry, I should talk about this a bit. We're seeing Firebelly a lot in Ogre's list at the minute, specifically because it's got that billowing ash aura, making units in range -1 to be hit, which is really good, especially if you combo that up with the -1 to wound mount trait that you see on a Stonehorn, which we see almost all of the time. And as you can see here, the Frostalon Stonehorn, which is pretty much like necessary in whichever version of, if you're taking all kind of Gutbusters, you're still going to run a Stonehorn. If you're running Stonehorns plus Stonehorns, it's still a Stonehorn. Like, it very much comfortably is one War Scroll that carries the whole book. I hope it doesn't get any points changes, because this very much relies on this being good, in my personal opinion. There's obviously the Kragnos Tyrant archetype as well, but that's kind of like unique in its own way, all in Meat Fist. It doesn't really... I think anytime you ally something like an Incarnate or Kragnos, which isn't really designed to be in those armies, you already throw the book out. So saying an army is doing well because it's got Kragnos in it doesn't actually feel applicable, because I don't think they were written with that in mind, if that makes sense. Then he's got, obviously, Rockmane Aldar, -1 to hit, which is good. He's also got command trait Touched by the Everwinter, which makes him a priest, which is actually pretty legit, in my opinion. I think making your Frostlord priest is the way to go. We've got Huskard on Thundertusk, then 3 lots of 2 Mournfang and 2 Iron Blasters. So a fairly elite army, lots of range shooting. I feel like the Iron Blasters are pretty much necessary in this book, but there you go. Then you got lovely Mr. Darren Watson running Fire Slayers. So he's running Greyfjord. Now, Darren's running a pretty unique list, but a list we saw play last year. Jeremy Vissier was running this list, and I know for a fact, because I was there, Darren played against Jeremy, and they've been speaking about it a lot, which is an incredibly unique list, and we already saw Jeremy last year run this to like an 11-0 victory at an event, so it makes a lot of sense. Darren also, again, a former Team England player. So Auric Runemaster, so the top 3 dominated by Team England there. Auric Runemaster, Auric Runesmiter, Auric Runefather, Battlesmith, and Celestin Prime. Now, I know what you think. So Celestin Prime, pretty crutch, but then minimal Hearthguard, so no actual infantry. Minimal infantry, but then it's this little bit that's going to make everyone have a lovely little time. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Grimwrath Berserkers, all of whom are characters, so they are able to take aspects of the champion. So you got one of them with Tunnel Master and one of them with the Draft of Magma Ale. But the important part is that they don't have the leader role. So just so we can be clear, at the back of a battle tome, there's what we call the pitch battle profiles, and they say if a unit is a leader or not. But a unit can be a hero, yeah, and still not be a leader. And now I know that sounds really weird, and it doesn't make any sense, really. They should just combine it. But you can have leaders, so you can have heroes that aren't leaders. And in this situation, he's got those, so these Grimwrath Berserkers, so you are able to give them enhancements, which might be, so they have like 10 galley champs, correct. They have like 10 galley champs, so maybe even better in this version in the list as well. So super interesting list, like definitely. It's one of those lists that really, like, I'm going to break down in more detail that I'm not going to do on this show because it's going to require that. Because there's lots of little interactions and things. But we'll talk about that another day. Anyway, congratulations to those 3. Let's get on with the 4-1. Now we're going to look at the 4-1s, and the 4-1s are a varied series of lists, which is quite exciting. A very series of lists, and with loads of new books getting some representation. So the first one we're going to talk about is Rick Myhill's Hedonites of Sinesh. These are all new books. He had a Keeper of Secrets, Sigvald, Contorted Epitome. Sigvald and Contorted Epitome, I think you're going to see in a lot of different lists, specifically because Sigvald's probably one of the greatest duelists in the game, if not the best, outside of obviously Gotrek, but that's a lot more points. 205 points for such an incredible piece is wicked. Contorted Epitome, +1 to wound D3 units +1 to wound is amazing. Keeper of Secrets with the fight twice, going really well on Sigvald. 2 units of 22 Blitzbarb Archers for 44 Blitzbarb Archers is going to be a huge amount of shots coming into the enemy, especially when you've used a unit of Blitzbarb Seekers to reduce the save down by 1, and even if they're not doing damage, they're giving out depravity dice options for generating depravity dice back. So that's going to be really, really useful as well. Or they're called temptation dice, but they generate depravity, right? Ultimately. And then you've got some Slickblade Seekers for some early depravity generation potentially. So very excited to see that there. That actually is quite different to Chris Green's Heathen Knights Specialist, which is also in the 4-1 bracket. Both of them, though, are pretenders, and it's obviously always going to be pretenders because of the additional CP. You've got Shalaxi, Keeper of Secrets, Contort Epitome. So those, like almost all of those things, Contort Epitome again, Keeper of Secrets again, but then you've got Shalaxi Hellbane. Which is quite interesting there. I wouldn't expect to see Shalaxi in a list, so I'd be excited to see how Chris felt about that. Then 2 units of 5 Seekers, some Blitzbarbs again. I think you're going to see these a lot, but only 2 units of 11 versus 2 units of 22. And then a unit of Slickblade Seekers, but this time instead of it being a unit of 5, it's a unit of 10. So you're seeing some units really come to the fore and be units that we see play. But we're still early into the edition, and both of these, early into this army seeing play, and also both armies only going 4-1 at the minute, so like not taking the world by storm but doing good, also played by 2 very good players. Then you've got Jonathan Gregory with just a cute Eternal Stormcast Eternals list. He's got 2 units of Knight Incanter as heroes, which for a double auto unbind, as in each one of them could auto unbind a spell once each. That's pretty good into the meta, I think, especially with things like Bridge, seeing more play in KO. I quite like seeing that go away. Also working against Slaves to Darkness and their version of Bridge. So an auto unbind is quite fun. 2 Knight Judicators with Gryph-hound, so for some long-range shooting. Dracothian Guard Concussors and Fulminators for some very good melee and shooting output. And those are the big hitters in the army, 480 for 40 points. 2 units of 5 Vindicators, some Fast Raiders, and the Everblaze Comet. So some damage at range. Everblaze Comet obviously is going to be doing damage at range. Knight Judicator is doing damage at range, and the Fulminators and Concussors doing some damage at range. And then when they finally get into to combat, those Fulminators still probably one of the better combat units in the game, so really solid. Dan George, cutie, just with just a Gloomspite Gits list, King's Gits. He's named all of his units. He went 4-1, a Dankhold Trog Boss, Scragrot, Gitsnick, the Fungoid Cave Shaman, and a Web Spinner Shaman. Then 10 Boing Grot Bounders, which for 280 points, probably maybe one of the most points effective, maybe Thunderers, maybe one of the most points effective output units in the game. 2 units of 6 Rock Guts are going to take out the main portion of his army, being pretty solid. They're kind of like Terminators if you play 40k, but they're on a 3-up armor save, so they're like Chosen in many ways. Then some Moonclan Stabbers, and then 5 Gobberpalooza and a Skitterstrand of Ragnarok with the Malevolent Moon, but that's free because he took that on the Loon boss. Because of the command trait Loon skin. So yep, just a bunch of good stuff. Like everything in there hits hard, does damage, buffs itself well, great magic, great shooting, just all round really, really good. Trolls just won't die. Trolls are so good. Trolls are very good. We talked about He Knights, and then you got Matt Lyons with his Ogre Moor tribes in the list as well. So Matt was running a Frosthorn Stonehorn, so he had 2 of those. Bloodpelt Hunter, Butcher, some Mournfang again. I mentioned this like kind of on the stream when we weren't recording for YouTube, but Mournfang packs seeing play is really interesting to me. I wasn't expecting it, but again, Stonehorn Beast Riders. So you got 2 Frosthorn Stonehorns and another Stonehorn. So Monster Trucks are still a go. Frost Sabers in there as well, which are just great for getting little objectives where you want them. Bloodpelt Hunter with Tunnel Master is really great, because don't forget, Bloodpelt Hunter gets to move when your opponent's moves near it. That will trigger Tunnel Master, meaning that you can basically run away in your opponent's move phase, like Foxes used to do, which is very, very good. So shout out there. Then we got Paul Buckler with Combat KO. So we're going to talk about KO again during this show, but Combat KO here, because he's got double frigate. Don't forget, when units get out of a frigate, once the frigate's charged, they all get always strikes first. Then he's got a unit of Engine Riggers, a unit of Sky Wardens, and then he's got 2 Admirals and 2 Engine Masters with engine harnesses. So I'm going to say that one of the things that's really, really good here is that if a unit, one of the frigates gets a bit too beat up, he can take those 9 Endrin riggers and with the Endrin Master and Endrin Harness, and he's going to be able to heal that to such a crazy degree. He'll be able to heal it from basically dead to basically alive in a turn, and then swap them around. So I imagine he does a lot of charges, get the units out of boats, fights, gets them in boats, does a heal, but he'll swap those units around, if that makes sense. So, like, if one of them gets too beat up, he'll put the heals into the other one and then heal around. But this is combat KO, and it's lovely to see that doing really well. Then you've got Ben Harper with Sylvaneth, which is great. He's got Gnarlroot Glade, and he's got Warsong Rev, Arch Rev, Spirit of Durthu, and Tree Lord Ancient. And then he's got 3 units of 5 Tree Revenants and some Colonel Hunters with great bows. So the only thing he's actually got in that list to go out there and fight is going to be that Spirit of Durthu in his army. But then he's got those great bows shooting at range, the Arch Rev doing spells at range. And if you look, it doesn't look like he's got Spike Swarm Hive for the teleport. So he's only got Durthu to go out there and fight people, but Durthu's pretty amazing. So great job there. Love that. And then finally, Tim Martin, who's in the chat right now with Blades of Corn, Bloodthirster and Unfettered Rage, Slaughter Priest, Valkyr, Wrath of Corn, Bloodthirster, Bloodstoker, and a Realm Gore Ritualist, so the new miniature. And then he's got 2 units of 10 Blood Reavers, a unit of 10 Blood Warriors, 2 Skull Cannons, and the Bleeding Icon. I really don't have tons to say about this, to be honest. I know that the Blood Warriors are pretty great. They're 20 wounds, who can have a very good armor save, and they fight on death, which feels odd. When you kind of don't want them to die. When they do die, you're going to get to make a murder roll. Same for the Blood Reavers. You're going to get +1 to hit, thanks to the Realm Gore Ritualist. But Valkyr in here is weird. The 2 Bloodthirsters, the Wrath of Corn Bloodthirster and the Bloodthirster and Infected Fury in there as well. It's quite interesting. I'm going to try and reach out to Tim and talk to Tim about this, because I'm actually pretty shocked to see the Bloodthirsters in there myself. But he went 4-1 with it, which is great. I know he's been playing Khorne a long time. I want to find out more about why he made the choices he did. Feels like there's a bunch of stuff in there I wasn't expecting. Skull Cannons and also the Bloodthirsters feels weird to me. But it feels like it's one of those armies that's actually got a lot. It's the sum of its parts with Khorne. So we're going to try and investigate that later. So that's really cool. Anyway, that's everything at the Hampshire Grand Tournament. They have loads of events around there. So if you get the opportunity to go to them, you should check them out. Our next event has got 39 players playing, well, had 39 players playing at the Icebreaker GT 2023. And this was in Roseville, Minnesota, I'm pretty certain. And as you can see, it was done at the Game Center here, which honestly looks like a legit awesome venue. Like, this is very cool. Very, very cool. Is that the Fantasy Flight Game Center? Awesome. Anyway, really cool little building. In my opinion. Some cool lists did really well as well, especially the one in first place. So we had 2 5-0s. We had Isaiah Ramchick, he was running Skaven, and Chris Prose, who was running Gloomspike Gitz. So the Skaven list is pretty crazy. So it was a Skaven list with a Verminlord Deceiver as the general. He had the Shadow Magnet Trinket and the Devious Adversary, which is pretty much, if you see a Verminlord, those are the 2 artifacts you see it on. Sometimes you see it on a Deceiver, sometimes you see it on a Warbringer, but those are always the 2 artifacts. Then you got Slink Skittershank, and he comes with his own little unit who can deep strike very close to the enemy and is effectively an assassin. And then it's an Eshin list, which is super cool. There was a Deathmaster, a Deathmaster, a Deathmaster, a Deathmaster. That's 4 Deathmasters who are assassins that can hide inside other units, and they're okay in combat. They've also got 5 shots that do mortals on 6s. D3 mortals on 6s to hit. So you're going to have 20 shots coming out of those guys, which is quite interesting, because if you spike really high, you're going to spike really high. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units of Gutter Runners. So they've got 3 shots each. They do 6s to hit on mortal wounds. They shoot 12 inches, but they can go into deep strike, and then they can pop out, and they can do all of their shots. They've got a 12-inch range. They've also got move 7, and they've got run and shoot. So you've got the potential to do a lot of mortal wounds at range there. Which is very, very good. So just an incredibly fun and interesting list. A lot of mortal wounds, a lot of damage, a lot of output, the ability to null deploy and make it so that you're safe and off the board, and then just a lot of shooting is very, very good. And then our Gloomspike Gitz list has got Glog's Mega Mob, so a bunch of trolls. You've got Dankhold Trug Boss, Scragrot, Fungoid Cave Shaman, 60 Moonclan shooters, 20 Moonclan stabbers. So that's a lot of shots. There's 120 shots coming in from the Moonclan shooters. And then you got 6 rock guts, 2 units of 3 fell waters. Don't forget, fell waters can strip the save off the enemy. So the fell waters could actually shoot into a unit, make it so they've only got 6 up save, and then all of those shots from the Moonclan shooters are going to just absolutely rinse people. 10 Loon Smasher Fanatics that you can put in combination with the stabbers, and then 6 Sneaky Snufflers in that list as well. So you're going to be able to have a lot of buffs put on those units. So overall, a great list in my opinion. And congratulations to both of those 2 people. In the 4-1 bracket, in the 4-1 category, which is also very valuable, we've got Thomas Werzinger from KO with a KO list. We'll talk about that in a sec. Patrick Otilino with Lumineth Realm Lords. That is a Techless Castle with Sentinels. Joe Cryer with a Tzeentch list with a bunch of Carrick Acolytes in Host Arcanum. Daniel Dowell was running, I can't remember now actually, and then David Bonseller was running Cruel Boys. What? Cruel Boys went 4-1, big yellers. So big yellers, so you can have the shooters be battle line and you can reinforce them out into a unit of 9, which is what he did. Snatcher Boss on Sludgeraker Beast, popping out extra mortal wounds. Gobsprak with the early up move, so the move in the hero phase. Then also being able to do Nasty Hex to make it so that you can't take ward saves. Swamp Caller Shaman. They're going to be buffing up those 2 units in 9 Manskewer Bolt Boys, popping shots at 27 inches. You get plus 3-inch range being a big yellers. Some screens of Hobgrots and Gut Rippers as well. And then Galician Sharpshooters. So a prodigious amount of damage coming from an incredibly fragile frame in the Manskewer Bolt Boys. But there you go. Interesting that it went 4-1. I think it's always going to be a problem army to play, and you're going to have some tough matchups, but it's also so terrifying. Those 9 Manskewer Bolt Boys are going to delete stuff. Not as probably as well as KO, but still. Shout out to my friend Joe going a 4-1. Love that. The Slaves to Darkness list was the other list that went 4-1. Chaos Lord and Karkadrak, Chaos Sorcerer Lord, Chaos Knights unit of 10. They got cheaper for some reason. Mark and Nurgle, a Rodin Banner, 30 wounds. On an incredibly good save, ignoring Rend 1. You're going to see that a lot. Going to pin your army back so you can't engage with them. A unit of Varangard, 6, and another 6 of Varangard. 1 with Khorne, 1 with Nurgle. So a tanky one and a fighty one. This is all in Knights of the Empty Throne, so they're going to get run and charge, which is very, very good. So really cool. And then the KO list. So again, another KO list we're reading. Not to try and make a point of it, but a lot of KO doing very well at the minute we're talking about. Rune Lord, Arcanaut Admiral, this is all in Barak Nar. And then an Endrin Master, and then Brock and the Aetheric Navigator. Brock has made a frigate, his flagship, and then it's another frigate. So double frigate meta, definitely a true. Loads of Arcanaut Company, a unit of 10 Thunderers and a unit of 6 Endrin Riggers. So a bunch of healing in these armies, and there's a lot of damage being done in moving over your opponent, both in the movement phase and also the charge phase. Thanks Jim Connius for donating 200 bits to the show. Appreciate that. And those are all our 4-1s at the event. Again, just going to point out, looks like an absolutely fantastic little gaming space. But the real shout-out's got to go to the Gutter Runners. The Gutter Runners are being sold in 2023, but not only being sold, but being played in events. You have to look across the table at these mashed potato units. It's phenomenal. And this really is a sign that we don't have respect for ourselves, because these are not good models. That's all I'm going to say. Shout out to everyone at the events. Our next event was the London Open, organised by the wonderful Mr. Colonel Cabbage. And it had 21 players. It was won by Russell Taylor of the Ragnarok Defenders. And he was running the Kharadron Overlords. I've been saying this a lot this week. So Barak Zilfin, he had Honour is Everything, Trust Your Guns without the ships of naught. He's got an Arcanaut Admiral, an Aether Chemist, and another Aether Chemist. He had a free spell in the bottle in which he took a Soul Screen bridge, so he's going to be able to teleport a unit around the board. He then had 15 Thunderers and then 10 more Thunderers. I assume the 15 Thunderers went inside the Ironclad, and then the 10 Thunderers would have used the bridge. Then a unit of 10 Archanaut Company, a frigate, 3 engine riggers for healing, and then an Ironclad. So just a prodigious volume of shooting. Everything I got told, he played less than a couple of turns each game, effectively just deleting whole armies in nothing but a turn. And on the double, deleting whole armies. So that's the feedback I've got. Sounds really exciting to be in a new shooting world and meta. But hopefully we'll break this down a little bit more in a little bit detail on another show. Yeah, there we go. Incredibly strong list and incredibly strong player and book. Well done. Well done. In the 4-1 bracket, we had Dan Sidders of the Ragnarok Defenders, Mo Ashraf, the founder and creator of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, with a big 4-1. Big dub there. Let's give it up for Mo in the chat, please, and in the comments. And then Paul Graham with Fire Slayers. And it was also his birthday this weekend, so shout out to Paul. That's great, of the Rusty Nukes team. So the Fire Slayers list, played by Birthday Boy, was Greyfjord. He had Gotrek in his list as well. I don't know why Gotrek isn't in more order armies. Like, legit. With all the super units running around, I don't know why people aren't using Gotrek to just absolutely slambo some units. My personal take. See what you all think, but there you go. Or it's Runefather, Runeson, Runemaster, Flamekeeper, and Grimwrath Berserker. Cute to see that in there as well. That means there were like 7 Grimwrath Berserkers out there in the Mortal Realms this weekend, which is funny. 2 units of 10 Hearthguard Berserkers, and then 20 Volkite Berserkers with Handsteel Axes, and then a Molten Infernoth. So again, just a quality combat army with just a major threat in Gotrek, which I think is just very, very good. Yeah. So really cool. Then we had a Lumineth Overlords list. This was played by Mo, the founder of Age of Sigmar. And he was running Archwing Teclis, Sonari Cathlar, 5 Wind Chargers, 10 Wardens, and then 2 units of 20 Sentinels for 40 Sentinel shots. So the Teclis Castle. And then, which I think was Slapchopped as well. So all hail Mo. And then finally, maybe the weirdest list I've seen in a while, Stormcast Eternals list. And this is Signs of the Storm with a Knight Zephyros, an Avantis Firestrike, which you never see, the named character from Hammerhall, I think. 2 units, a unit of Dracothian Guard Tempesters, a unit of Dracothian Guard Fulminators, some Drakespawn Knights, some Judicators, and 5 Sequitors, and the Everblaze Comet. So, Everblaze Comet, pretty cool, obviously for doing the AoE Mortal Wounds. Judicators with Boltstorm Crossbows doing a ton of damage at range as well, especially a unit of reinforced unit of 10. Drakespawn Knights, incredibly effective screen. They are cavalry bases, are a unit of 5, so you can screen them out in a line. They're 2 wounds each with a 3-up armor save. And with 10 wounds for 110 points is bonkers good. And incredibly difficult to deal with. And then you've got the raw output of Fulminators and Tempesters. You love to see it. Shout out to everyone at the London Open. Shout out to Charlie for running the event. Loads of love. The final event is the Clash of Titans 23 Age of Sigmar, which took place in New South Wales, Australia, specifically at the New Life Church. There it is over there. If you're watching the podcast, I am showing you a picture of Australia, which is interesting. For the placings in the 5-0 bracket, we've got Gary Chen at 5-0 and Thomas Oliver in the 4-1. Gary Chen was running a Oakenbrow Sylvaneth list. Love it. Tree Lord Ancient, Spirit of Durthu, Treicher, and a Battle Mage. Don't forget anyone operating at the. So if you're playing Oakenbrow, all of your monsters get to fight at the top bracket, or like half their bracket or whatever, unless they've taken they're down to their last wound. So just very, very good at maximum efficiency through the whole game. Then you've got a Tree Lord Ancient, Spirit of Durthu, Treicher, Battle Mage, obviously for the teleport. So the plus to move and plus to charge spell that the Battle Mage of Gur gets you. The Warsong Revenant with Spellsinger, being able to do spells through trees. It's got the Versatile Gem as well, and it's got Fueled by Gurish Rage, which is absolutely fantastic on the Warsong Revenant, just because it's got so many wounds. So being able to return it is really, really good. So if it's slain, it comes back on a 3+. 2 Tree Lords, a unit of Dryads, and a Spite Swarm Hive. so additionals for the teleport. So you just teleport around Durthu, beating people up. Tree Lord Ancient puts a forest out. Tree Lords for fight last as well, so Durthu can keep slapping, which is very, very good. Absolutely love this list. It's really good. Think it might be my next masterclass is Oakenbrow. Just so much potential as an army. Just very, very effective. Then you've got then you've got the last list, which is Slaves to Darkness, Kabbalists, Chaos Sorcerer Lord, 10 Chaos Knights and Mark of Nurgle, and the Eroding Icon. Then 2 units of 9 Corvus Cabal for deep strikes, being able to get those battle tactics, a Soul Screen Bridge, and then a unit of 10 Chaos Chosen, and then 6 Varangard, all with Mark and Nurgle, meaning that they're all -1 to wound, but the 10 Chaos Knights are also -1 rend, like ignore rend 1, basically. So just a really survivable army with lots of damage output, especially in those Chosen, especially in the Varangard, and then they're just going to survive for a huge portion of the game. Okay, so to wrap it up, how do I feel about this week's event results? What are we learning? Okay, still a variety of different armies doing really well. Positive. That means it's got a really expansive meta. Even the list that we've seen do well, we've seen different iterations on the list. Gutter Runners, Grimwrath Berserker, Fireslayers. Those are different, which is cool. So different armies and different lists inside of those armies is quite nice. Does feel like, though, we're starting to see a bit of a menace in the Kharadron Overlords. Are they too good? It's a great question. Like, a lot of the competitive players seem to think so at the moment. We'll see. They might be too strong, which is something to keep an eye on. So, honestly, very, very interesting. And I've enjoyed looking at that, especially the effectiveness and efficiency of Thunderers. But that said, don't panic. We still don't know exactly how it's going to shape up, which is going to be really interesting. We've seen some Slash armies. We started to see some Khorne armies as well. Slaves to Darkness still in there. I haven't seen much Nighthaunt this week, but it wasn't a super busy week. So yeah, the game is still quite varied. Lots of different varied lists. That seems really positive. Pretty good. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks to the Twitch chat who hung out with me today while I was like just losing my mind and we looked at a million different things. So that's worth shouting out to them. And thank you to everyone else who on Patreon who supports me so I can do this for a show. Obviously, straight down there, leave comments and all those other things if you listen to the podcast. Thanks very much. See you guys soon.